Well, look what arrived today. It's the new heat exchanger for my hot tub heat pump. So yeah, it's quite a big thing, and what I'm going to need to go do is go down to Pipemore, which is a shop not too far from me that sells all sorts of stuff to do with like copper pipes, pipe fittings, water pumps, stuff like that. And I need to get female hose tails to fit this 20mm hose. And I'm also going to buy a 2400 litre per hour 12 volt brushless pump as well, and it should be able to pump the water through that really fast, resulting in a really efficient system. I've got a flare fitting made up here, and that screws on there, but I've still not got my 3/8 copper tubing yet. I'm still waiting for that so I can make up the other flare fitting that goes on this end, which is smaller. So I reckon the hot gas out the compressor should go in the larger fitting, and then it'll come out the bottom through the smaller one, and then go through my sight glass and then onto the filter dryer from there. That's what I'm going to be doing as my next project, getting this all set up and installed. I might buy another thermostatic expansion valve, the one that failed, or the one that was a fail because it was missing a part. I managed to sell that at a profit. It sold like a hotcake, by the way. It just went just about as soon as I listed it, so that's good. I made about £5 profit on that, so I might buy another expansion valve. Okay, so here's the stage I'm at now. The shed is still sort of a mess, but at least it's not dirty and a mess. It's just a bit untidy just now. I have thrown a lot of stuff out, but I still need to reorganise a bit, but everything has been swept. It's just need reorganised. So I went down to Pipemore, which is a shop near me who sells lots of good stuff. And I got this, but I accidentally got stuff that was just a little bit too big. I didn't need to go this big, and that's 10 metres. And it cost a fair bit anyway. So that's 10 metres of 20mm internal diameter tube, and I've also bought the water pump too. But as for the exchanger, I've got the first flare made, and the way I make the flares is I'm just using these punches here. But so what I did was I just used 5/16 one just to straighten out the end of the tube, just to take that sort of inward facing burr off from when it was cut from the factory. And then I move up to the 3/8 flare, and then I'll just bang it in until it just flares out like that. And then I move up to the bigger one, and then I just spend a long time carefully tapping it out until it eventually flares out. And I'll go up the sizes. These are actually swaging punches, they're not really for flaring. And then I'll go up the sizes until I've made a flare that covers the whole flare face on that. And I put the flare nut on, put a little bit of Hylomar gasket sealant on there. Don't know if that's a good idea or not, but can't do any harm. Tiny little bit. And just use 2 spanners to tighten it. I don't hold on to this and then tighten it, as I don't want this to take any of the force in case the fitting breaks off. So here's the progress so far on this flare. So I was just going up the punch sizes and flaring it out, and then what I did was finally it was sort of lopsided and squint, so I then put it on the heat exchanger and sort of partly tightened it up, and I squashed it sort of into shape. And then what I'm doing is just cleaning the face with steel wool to make it nice and smooth, ready for the joint to be made properly. That might actually be a good idea to put some Loctite thread glue on the threads of the flare nut as well, because I've heard of them coming loose due to temperature changes. I saw that in some other video, can't remember what it was. Okay, so I was running it just with no water flowing, and it's definitely lost refrigerant while it's been in storage, so there's a slow leak somewhere. I'm not sure where. my suspicion is it's in this accumulator somewhere, so that'll be getting rid of anyway. I don't think I'll need it. So I'm just going to get all the refrigerant recovered. It's just R290 that's in it. To recover, I'll be using my favourite old compressor. I've recently just soldered the valves direct onto the side of it to make them much stronger. They're on the end of copper tubes and they were just getting burst. So this is all soldered together like this. So what I'm going to do is turn it on just to get all the air out. And then basically I'm just going to, once the air stops flowing, I'll just purge it through with refrigerant, just a little bit, until I'm sure there's absolutely no air left, and I'll just connect up to the cylinder and just do a very small purge, and then that's just to make sure there's no air in it. Okay, I'm sure that'll be cleared through now. So it's just propane coming out of there. I'll just purge through both sides. A bit of oil coming through as well, so we'll have to watch for that. Right, so I'm fairly confident that's all purged through, so I'm going to close this, open up the liquid side, there's actually a heck of a lot still in there. I'm just going to keep monitoring this recovery cylinder, make sure it doesn't go full to the brim, because the pressure will build really quickly. So I'm just monitoring this. If liquid starts coming out the vapour side, then stop immediately. So I stopped for a little while, no liquid came out the vapour side, so it's not full to the brim just yet. And as you can see, the compressor's got this ring of condensation on the bottom, so it must have just been like sort of like sitting there like a tank of propane, and all the propane in the bottom of the compressor is evaporated off. It's all in the filter dryer as well, naturally cooled. So there still must have been a decent amount of the charge left, but yeah, I'm just pausing just now, seeing how much the pressure builds. I'm not going to pull it down to vacuum, because I want it to be under slight positive pressure when I desolder the fittings. Yeah, I'll get a burst of flames, but at least there'll be no oxygen in the system. So I get it down as close to zero as possible, so when I do desolder a fitting, a bit of flame does come out, but it's nothing to worry about. Now for the dreaded part where we remove the discharge line from the compressor. So that's off, that's tight. Yeah, I got a little frostbite there. That's just all the liquid boiling off from inside the hose. Well, I've been at this for hours and I'm pleased to say that it is full of refrigerant and it is working. I don't think I've got it filled properly though, because I think either there's not enough refrigerant in it or the evaporator is being starved, because it was all frosting up all the way down there. And I kept adding more and more refrigerant, but I wouldn't stop frosting up. And that may be partly because this heat exchanger is just so efficient that it was just ripping all the heat right out the refrigerant, causing it to come, causing the evaporator to be so cold. But I'm not really that sure. As the water got up to temperature, the pressures went up a bit, but with this the discharge pressures were considerably lower, and the evaporator pressure was quite low as well, but I think I'll just have to play about with it more with a full bucket of water tomorrow. I did have fittings on it, and there was flowing water around it, but I didn't let the epoxy cure enough, and then it just started leaking, and I put more Teflon tape on. And you can actually see that is liquid refrigerant just sloshing around in there. But I haven't run it long enough for the filter dryer to do its thing properly. It's sort of in between dry and wet. But I put a brand new dryer on it. So, and I've ordered a new brushless pump, which will just go in this area somewhere, and I'll make an Arduino temperature controller, which will give protection for things like no water flow, things like that. So I bought a flow sensor as well. That's coming from China. So if there's no flow, it will cut off and it won't go on again until the user resets the unit. But that's all for tonight. I'll just have to play about with it more tomorrow.